Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I can't have actioners and then I don't get a resounding good morning. When last did you see me? Good morning, actioners. Good morning. It's so good to see all of you. Is it afternoon? We've been up since early. You know, when you work hard this morning all day long, we forget that there's a thing called sleep. They say there's no rest for the busy. I've changed the term. It's no longer no rest for the wicked. We are not wicked, am I right? We are hardworking. My name is Lerato Ngobeni. I serve as the national spokesperson of ActionSA. I also have the privilege of being ActionSA's Chief Whip in Parliament. It's a great honor, and it's so good to see each and every one of you. Just as a disclaimer, I have been out of action since February. So it's good to be standing right next to you. I have a new appreciation for these two legs that I have. And so I'm absolutely appreciative of how far I have come. Let me greet all of the dignitaries who are here, give special greetings to our President, Dr. Herman Mashaba. He's right here, give him a hand. Let me also greet the First Lady of Tshwane, Dr. Nasiphi Moya, who is here. Dr. Moya, I'm getting jealous. You know, the spotlight is coming off. It's on you. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to know that. Let me greet the National Chairperson of ActionSA, Mr. Michael Beaumont, who is somewhere here. I think you have seen him. Give him a hand. Let me also greet our two Senate members. We've got Dr. John Moody, who I have not seen this year. Welcome, Dr. John Moody. Mr. John Moody has the pleasure of serving at MPAC, is it SCOPA? SCOPA in the Gauteng legislature. We are in the legislature, guys. Give him a hand. Also, my fellow, can I say President, my fellow MP, Dr. Kgosi Letlape, who is also the chairperson of our caucus, our 6-member caucus in Parliament, who is also here. Welcome, Dr. Letlape. And each and every one of you, I saw Evelyn is the provincial secretary. The structures is here. I also see Henriette, who is also a member of the Senate. Welcome, Henriette. Also sits in the council in the city. Greet everyone. So welcome to every one of you who are our leaders. Welcome to the media who are here. Thank you for being with your parents to assist us to take this message. Who it is. If you're watching the news, you know precisely who it is that I'm talking about. So today is not just the launch of an initiative, it is a declaration of intent. It is an intent to rewrite the economic destiny of our country. It is an intent to challenge the complacency that has allowed injustice to linger. It is an intent to offer a bold and practical roadmap to a truly inclusive South Africa. I think all of you who've been part of us know that we have been speaking about inclusive economic growth. If you were at the policy conference, you know exactly what it is I'm talking about. Today is about exactly that. We gather here 31 years since the advent of democracy. And while we celebrate the political freedoms that democracy delivered, we cannot pretend that those freedoms have brought equal access to prosperity. The truth, Bakaitsu, is painful, but it must be said that South Africa remains the most unequal country on earth. That is a very stark and ghastly reality that we are faced with. This is not the natural order of things. I think Mr. Mashaba always talks about how poverty is a man-made thing. It's going to take each and every one of us to turn the situation around. It is a result of a legacy of colonization and apartheid, but also of 31 years of failed reform, broken promises, and timid governance. Economic exclusion has changed its language, but not its character. So let me just share a few of the numbers to paint a picture for you and tell the story. Today, the top 10% of households take home more than half the income of our country. The bottom 40% get just 6.8%. The top 10% own 86% of the wealth, and the bottom 50% almost nothing. South Africa's Gini coefficient stands at 0.63, a global symbol of grave inequality. A white-headed household earns nearly 5 times more than a black African-headed household. That includes a whole lot of us in this room. This is not a democracy delivering dignity. I think we can all agree with that. It is a system that entrenches economic apartheid by other means. The divide is racial. The divide is spatial. Over 90% of the unemployed in this country are black South Africans. Only 13.7% of black households make it into the top income bracket compared to 73.2% of white households. And education, the supposed great equalizer, remember Madiba said education is the most powerful tool you can use to change the world, still tells a tale of division. We have private schools, we have dismally performing public schools, and education, which is supposed to be that equalizer. Black households spend just 1,266 Rand a year on education, while white households spend about 7,367 per household. So this is not transformation, it is stagnation disguised as progress. So it is time for us to rewrite this transformation agenda. So fellow South Africans, our constitution, as we've all come to know, and I'm so glad about it because if you've been watching the VAT debate, I think for the very first time, many South Africans were paying attention to what is going on, and I'm hoping that we are now more au fait with what our constitution actually promises us. This constitution speaks of healing the divisions of our past. We have heard this over and over and over again. Of freeing the potential of each person and of improving the quality of life for all our citizens. But we have not yet achieved that vision. We must ask, why not? And what must be done differently for us to change this trajectory? Today, we as ActionSA propose the establishment of an ad hoc parliamentary committee, one with a singular mission: to evaluate South Africa's post-1994 transformation laws against their outcomes, to hear from ordinary people and experts alike, and to chart the legislative reforms that will finally break the cycle of inherited inequality. This, in our view, is a bold and inclusive step towards that future that we envision. This is not about tearing down the past. It is about confronting it honestly so we can build something better. ActionSA believes in solutions rooted in evidence and not ideology. I think you have heard us many times speak about being pragmatists as opposed to sticking to ideological dogma that takes us nowhere. We believe in policy driven by impact and not slogans. And we believe in a South Africa where no child's future is determined by their race or their postal code. This initiative is a call to every political party, every civil society organization, every academic institution, and a call to each and every South African to get their hands dirty so we can build this future that we all dream about, but build it together. So we are asking South Africans to come to the table. We want you to bring your ideas. We want you to help us rebuild our country's transformation agenda from the ground up. You remember that before we started as ActionSA, we had a process called the People's Dialogue. This is precisely the step that we want to take, because if we're ever going to do anything, particularly us as politicians, we must take the people on the ground with us. This is going to ask each and every one of you to come to the table and work with us. Because only when all South Africans are included in prosperity, only when all children have equal access to opportunity, and only then will we have fulfilled the true promise of 1994 and South Africa's democratic project. The time for platitudes is over. The time for transformation has come. That is my introduction. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening to me. I appreciate that. So we didn't just want to have a press conference where we are telling you what is going on. We have invited a couple of young people to tell their own stories, so that what I've just described is something of a lived reality, and I think it will resonate with a lot of us who are in this room. A lot of us, I was telling the young man who's coming up now, Kgalema Maleke. Kgalema, please come up. Kgalema is from Pimpville, give him a hand. Kgalema, you know what his name means. Ne? You've all heard, the only Kgalema you know is Kgalema Motlanthe. But this is Kgalema Maleke. Rabatla Kgalema, Atlo Kgalema the future. Atlo Kgalema the present. Kgalema means to rebuke, to correct. Huh? I get it? So, Rina Kgalema to come Atlo Kgalema what has happened and tell his story. Kgalema is studying internal auditing at UNISA. He is 20 years old and he does not believe that I actually could be. When I was sitting down and I was introducing myself, I said, hi, I'm Lerato. And I said, how old are you? He said, he's 20. I said, Kina Mama Lerato. My son is 20. So, welcome Kgalema. Please give him a hand and encourage him to speak to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dumelang, Legai. Thank you for the good introduction. I'm Kgalema, and I'm the youth of South Africa, and I'm proud to be part of this country. There's a lot of economic injustices that are happening every day. And, the government may not be cognizant of it, but it's actually very depressing. I live in Soweto, and there's something I've observed, that there would be 10 children, and after they've matriculated, only 2 get to be employed every 2 years. Then what happens to the other ones that are finishing matric? That number just compounds and compounds and compounds. This is the reason why this press conference was here, in order to address certain injustices that are happening to the South African youth. I had a conversation not so long ago with a boy my age. He was explaining how he would go to certain establishments and give in his CV, and they'd tell him, no, we don't have a post right now. When he tries to open a business, he doesn't have enough funds. So now his hands are tied. A lot of the youth is turning into default entrepreneurs due to lack of employment. And what I've noticed is that ActionSA, within its manifesto, has specified that it aims to employ 30% of all income generated by South Africa by ActionSA's Opportunity Fund towards initiative. And I really hope to see that, Mr. Mashaba, because we are suffering as the youth. Myself, I am studying auditing, and I'm skeptic that even if I pass and get the degree, will I get a job? will by knowledge that I've acquired be heard. You understand? And not just for my parents to be proud that he has a degree. That's not enough. You must live. Inflation is rising. By the time I get my degree, probably a house will be worth 1.5 million. A lot of business owners that are small business owners need to be educated in terms of the South African banking system. And I beg that ActionSA would even create programs that will teach small business owners about things such as using credit cards, how to get credit scores. Not everything should be on the direction of the government. You can get funding within the private sector. But the problem is the gap. And what is the gap? The gap is the information. Getting the information to the actual people that need it. The private sector, not so long ago, I was watching a short, and it said that the South African private sector is sitting on $1 trillion in their balance sheet. I don't know about the trillion because I don't feel the trillion. I'm a consumer. So please, can we find a way for the youth to be employed and for small businesses to grow? Because those small businesses tomorrow will become public companies that will employ thousands of people. More than 20 years back, there was an enterprise called ShopRite. Who thought it would be this size? It was a small business. So small business is the future of South Africa, not concentration of wealth. Thank you.
If you don't feel it, I hope you felt that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and thank you for your courage. Last year the statistics said, or the numbers said, 2024 was the year where we matriculated the highest number of matriculants who came out of the system. Over 500,000, I think it's even closer to 600,000. The institution of the University of Witwatersrand only has 6,000 places, 4,000 places. UCT has only about 4,000, 4,500 spaces. TUT, all these places. NSFAS not paying, our kids lingering. We get lots of calls from places like the Free State where NSFAS has not paid and our kids and our young girls are turning into prostitutes because they don't want to go home to go and disappoint their parents. They still want to chase the dream of being able to enter into higher learning. These are very painful numbers and painful realities that we must face as South Africans. The next young person, I think this is Power. Your microphone is causing me a lot of trauma. I'm going to try and fix it. There you go. Okay. Let me welcome Umdana Ngoza. Umniswemvula ilanga libalele. Unokuthula Mthembu. Please give her a hand. Give her courage. Nokuthula is 27 years old from Tembisa. Ay, Kaslami. Nokuthula is from Tembisa. She's studying, are you still studying occupational health? You're done. So she's done. She studied occupational health. She's 27 years old, occupational health and safety. Please give her a hand for her to tell her story.
Good afternoon, fellow South Africans. My name is Nokuthula Mthembu. I'm from Tembisa. I was born here at Tembisa. So my story is I've matriculated 2018, and I was so happy that at least someone could be independent, because I'm from a disadvantaged family. So after my metric, I got scammed while I was looking for a job. So I thought I would go to further my studies or get a permanent job. So unfortunately, it wasn't like that. So to be a youth, it's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah, it's taking its toll. Sorry.
Please give her a hand. You know, it takes courage to speak your truth. It takes lots of courage to stand in front of people you don't know and be naked and also ask for help. It is tough. Well done for even standing up and taking because we see our kids, young boys, badala ludo. I don't know if you've seen collocationing. Bana barona bamuli fau. I want you to give a hand to Freshan. Lamutsa Freshan was Kiwani na Freshan. Freshan is an actor. Freshan method is from one of the most troubled communities of Gauteng, Lerato Park. You know, Freshan is always so bubbly when you see him. You know, they say you must not look like your problems. Freshan is one of those. He's 29 years old, from Lerato Park. He's an activist in this organization. He works hard. He stands up. You see him all the time. When we're doing groundwork, he's on the ground. He's trying to get an answer. He's trying to fight for his own future. He understands that the future that you want, you are the one who you've been waiting for to make it happen. He's one of that youth. You have seen what is happening in Lerato Park. I think it was last week, 7 young people, younger than him, gunned down. We are tired of seeing bodies coming out of Lerato Park. I am so grateful to God that you are here and you are living to see another day. You literally live in an absolute jungle. It is tough in Lerato Park. We are grateful for your life and we want to hear your story. We give you encouragement and we give you love, and I know you're going to do a good job. Please welcome Freshan.
Good day, everyone. Fellow South Africans, actioners, President, how are you doing, sir? Okay, my name is Lerato Ngobeni. I am from Lerato Park. Guys, I did prepare a speech, however, I'm not going to look at it, and I don't think I'm going to read it. I am actually going to speak about Lerato Park. It's challenging, it's sad. Waking up to gunshots, people screaming, youngsters seeing 12, 13-year-old boys and girls running with guns in the street, chasing the Ubers. It's sad. It's sad. the system has failed us. Our kids are dropping out of school. I can't even speak about matric because I don't think I want to use that word, but most of our colored youth aren't interested in finishing school. The new trend is a pair of Nike techies, a Nike outfit, and how you get that is by robbing an Uber or robbing a pensioner coming from the shops with the groceries and those things. So I do love an extension for where the crime rate is the highest. Ubers doesn't come in there. I need to take a taxi from my place to Southgate or to Viking in order to get to work, to get to an airport, wherever I need to go to. It's terrible. So where I'm getting to is our youth is, in fact, our parents. Let's start that way. It's our parents that's leading us and allowing the kids to sit at 9, 10 o'clock at night, robbing and requesting Ubers. Those people, if you look at it, that's their source of income. As much as I go to work, I need to provide in my house. That is what that Uber driver is doing. He's got innocent children waiting for him to provide for them. So I don't even know where to end, where to start. In my middle, where am I? It's terrible. My encouragement to the youth is, guys, don't drop out of school. Stay in school. Be the future. Be the leader. Be the person. Be what you want to see in the future. Set an example. I love what I do. I've been asked so many times, why do I work in the community? Why do I help? I don't get paid for it. It's not about getting paid. I'm getting paid by love and feeding my passion. That's why I love working in the community. Lerato, thank you so much. That's all I have to say.
I told you, he's a ball of lightning. No shame in volunteering. We all started that way. You know, you gotta get up, you gotta be seen. You know, there's somebody who said if you, this one is on this, I'm trying to make the mood light so that Lena, I can lift my spirit. Somebody was talking about, you know, finding a life partner. And they said if all you do is go to work and home, your only hope is that he will fall on your windscreen in between those two journeys. Otherwise, it's just never going to happen. So it's good for you to volunteer. It's good for you to get out and be seen. Because when you're seen, you are serving a community. We know what your skill space is. We can see you, we can recommend you, we can work with you, we can encourage you. So well done. Please give these 3 young people a massive round. Are you ready? All right. Freshan spoke about quality education, that we must stay and observe and participate and demand it and want it. Dr. Moya, you know, we are always the first. You know when you are the first to do anything and everything. Dr. Moya and I, we share firsts. I'm the first national spokesperson of this organization. Dr. Moya is the first mayor of this organization. The very first one. He was not the mayor of ActionSA. He was the mayor of something else. Under some other things. This is the first mayor of ActionSA. Like you Dr. Moya is going to, you know, we have to find a way to lift up our spirits. Dr. Moya is going to speak about equitable service delivery. She's the service delivery lady. Have you seen her working on pictures? And today, she's wearing heels for the first time. She has not been wearing heels for a very, very long time. Dr. Moya has a beautiful name. Her name is Nasiphi. And you know, when she told me what her name means, I want her to tell you what a Nasiphi is. You know, when we were given names for a reason. And her name will explain to you why. You know, your name that you are given actually is the prophecy towards what it is you are going to give back to the nation. So, this one, we challenge Nasiphi, that name. Power FM, Ivela, where does it come from? Power, please come and help Our Lady have power here. I'm so sorry, Doc, but this mic is very heavy. Should I move it this way? I wrote it down, but I don't want to watch it, so I'm going to allow you to speak. Please welcome Dr. Nasiphi Moya.
Jeez, I've missed my action. Mr. Mashaba, I have not worn this shirt in such a long time. It's such a pleasure to be here. This is giving me trauma, Mr. Mashaba. I thought you would have a stool for me by now. At the policy conference, I was this short. I'm still this short. I tried with heels, but I'm not winning. So, of course, the national spokesperson would want me to tell you what my name means. So, my full name is Nasiphi Moya and Samgeli. My mom decided to change it. I think I was doing so well in keeping her very old because I was mischievous. Then she said, Nasiphi Isabelo and Samgeli. So shortly, whatever gift, which is the first version, whatever gift that God gives me, I will accept it. And my mom's version is whatever share that God gives me, I will accept it. They thought I was going to be a boy. I was the fifth of 5 daughters, and they didn't have a boy, and they were giving up. And when she went to see an older lady, and the older lady asked, what's her name? And my mom said, I don't know how to name her because we are so disappointed that it's not a boy. And the elderly lady said, no, this is going to be Nasiphi Moya Samgeli. That's me. No, Tulane. Siswab, let me start off where you left off. You will think that you are the only one. As a black girl in South Africa, I got reacquainted with how untransformed this country is at the age of 33. I had worked for 15 years. Since I got to varsity, I started working at the age of 17. When I was 33, I had rose in my career so up the ladder. I thought I was successful. I lost my job. Do you know how long it took me to become poor again? I'm talking negative bank balance, where I had worries that whatever property that I've accumulated was going to be taken away. I thought I had money only to understand that the money that I had could only save me for 4 months. And then I was poor. I was taking contracts from someone who was earning 6 digits monthly salaries. I was taking contracts of 5,000 rand. You are not the only one, Sisi. This country needs to transform. We are tired of women who are being converted into prostitutes because they have to put food on the table. So this is the country that we want. This is the country we deserve. That we must be seen. So you're not the only ones, Siswa. It is quite a pleasure to be here, Mr. Mashaba, our president, the leadership of ActionSA that is here, fellow ActionSA and the fellow councillors I see here, the members of the media, the honored guests that we hear. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor to join you at this important gathering focused on one of the most urgent and deeply personal tasks of our time, real, tangible transformation, especially for those who remain excluded from our economy and our progress. I speak to you today as the executive mayor of our capital city. Tshwane is a city rich in history and full of promises, but still marked by the deep scars of the past. The old divides of inequality are not just visible across Tshwane, they are felt in the daily lives of our people. As I stand here today, most of my city's residents still wait for water tankers. Some still live surrounded by sewage. Others go to bed each night in informal settlements without electricity, without jobs, and without hope. Their lives reflect a country where too many still wait for the fruits of freedom. The truth is, inequality in South Africa continues to run along the same racial, spatial, and economic lines it did before 1994. While we have made undeniable progress, we must also be honest. The city I lead today still bears the legacy of unequal investment, unequal access, and unequal opportunity. Our unemployment rate in Tshwane currently stands at 37.8%, with young people even higher. Poverty remains widespread, particularly in regions like Region 1 and Region 6, where service backlogs and historical neglect are most visible. Informal settlements still sit on the periphery, not only of our maps, but our plans and budgets. Townships remain far from centers of growth, disconnected from decent services and cut off from opportunity. Fellow South Africans, we cannot speak meaningfully about economic and social justice when those who live closest to hardship remains furthest from help. We cannot continue this trend. I grew up in a village in Eastern Cape where mud schools were just a way of life. As someone who comes from humble beginnings, I understand what it means to live without access to basic services and opportunities that others often take for granted. I share this not out of resentment, but out of a deep sense of responsibility. The responsibility to ensure that every South African has a fair chance to live a life of dignity, security, and upward mobility. I count myself fortunate to have benefited from the opportunities ushered in by our new democratic dispensation in 1994. Most importantly, the chance to pursue a quality education and to empower myself through learning. But as I stand here today and reflect on the residents I serve, I must admit, I remain the exception, not the norm. In fact, too many people from the same village where I grew up are still excluded from the mainstream economy, still waiting for the doors of opportunity to open. A cousin that I was born with in the same year and same month with has never been on an airplane. That is why I believe we have a duty to change, because the noble promise of broad-based Black economic empowerment has yet to reach many of its intended beneficiaries, and that cannot be acceptable. Transformation must be driven from the ground up. To truly change our society, we must expand opportunity at the grassroots level, where the need is greatest and the impact is most immediate. Transformation will not be achieved by speeches and policy statements alone. It will be achieved in cities where most South Africans now live, and in the everyday work of making those cities fair, more inclusive, and more responsive to people's needs. That is the vision the government I'm privileged to lead is pursuing in the city of Tshwane. Since taking office, I've been very clear, Mr. President, we must build a city that works, not just for those who already have, but for those who still wait. This means transforming how we invest, how we budget, and how we measure success. Central to this is the implementation of a bold yet practical economic revitalization strategy to grow Tshwane's economy to 3.9% by 2029. Mr. President, this is crazy target. Tshwane had an economic growth of 6% in 2011. That economic growth has dwindled to 0.3% in 2023. To reach 3.9% is a crazy target, but the people of Tshwane deserve it. The strategy effectively gives expression to this, to our party's call for truly inclusive economic empowerment. A policy proposal that advocates for the inclusion of all people who have been left out of the economy since 1994 and before. But this is not about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about jobs. It is about dignity. It is about people like this young woman, Unotula. Your story breaks my heart, sister. I see so many girls like you in this city. So the young people who dream of finding work in a city that believes in their future. Rooted in the principles of building an inclusive economy, this revitalization strategy focuses on 6 pillars: investment attraction, infrastructure delivery, township and SMME development, innovation and skills, land and property activation, as well as more supportive regulatory environment. We are unlocking development corridors in Tshwane, fast-tracking high-impact projects, and putting city-owned assets to productive use, from the Beaumont airport to the Tshwane fresh produce market and the Rooiwal power station. We are not only working to attract investment, we are working to ensure it happens more equitable. For too long, only certain regions of Tshwane have benefited from growth, while others have been left behind. These 7 regions of our city were not created equal, and that inequality continues to shape people's access to opportunity. That is precisely why true transformation must be both economic and spatial. We are balancing our city's resources by budgeting based on need, not just proximity to wealth and power. This means deliberately investing in communities that have been historically underserved. It is not about favoring one area over another, ladies and gentlemen. It is about correcting the imbalance and giving every resident a fair chance at a better life. That is why our integrated development plan and communities in Bizos prioritize the voice of township and informal settlements. It is why our infrastructure budgets now includes areas like Social Movement, Mamelodi and Hammanskraal. And it is why we're investing in small business, not for appearances, no, but because they are the heartbeat of local economies and the engine of future job creation. We are formalizing spaza shops, and it remains our intention that spaza shops in the city of Tshwane will be reserved for South Africans. We are not only formalizing spaza shops and supporting them, we're supporting co-ops, expanding youth-owned enterprises, and opening new business centers in underserved communities. Because equality of outcome is not something the state can deliver, but equality of opportunity is, and that must be our mission. We must build a city where it does not matter where you are born, what language you speak, or which part of Tshwane you come from. Everyone should have a fair shot. Fellow South Africans, if transformation is to mean anything, it must show up in people's lives. In a job, in a working tap and a flushing toilet, in a functional school, in a clinic that remains open after dark. Transformation cannot be the language of the elites. It must be lived. It must be the lived experience of ordinary people. Let me close with this. The city of Tshwane cannot fix inequality alone, but we can lead by an example. We can be a place where economic justice is not theoretical but practical, where spatial redress is not a rhetoric but real, where no residents feel invisible, a place where every resident, where every community deserves investment, and where real change starts closest to the people. This is how cities can lead transformation. This is how cities can honor democracy. And this is how cities can change lives. Thank you so much.
Nasiphi na Isipho, Enisazipiwa. Hey, comrades, I love that name. It was the first time I was hearing it. Please give her a round of applause. Thank you so much, Dr. Moya. Guys, Dr. Moya and her team are doing incredible work in Tshwane. I know for sure because we used to pass through Tshwane when I was growing up. Winterfeld, my aunt was married there. And when you were driving through Tshwane, it was very clear that that's it was law and order. Everything was working. And I'm so glad to be seeing and hearing testimonials of people who are talking about the progress that you are doing in Tshwane, that you are making in Tshwane, and the difference that you are making in Tshwane. And we've been living under rot for so long. And I know that people are impatient, but I also know you are equally impatient, and that's what we need, and that's the drive that we need. And we absolutely appreciate your leadership. Thank you so very much. You know, earlier on I spoke about being taught that we must not look like our problems. Each and every one of us here has a story to tell, a valid story. A story that is important, that makes up the fabric of our nation. Mine is just to encourage each and every one of us guys to say, you know, when the government has failed the people must remember that they are the government. We must govern ourselves. Have you seen our communities? It's filthy. Kulitsila everywhere. Young people, you can clean up the streets. You don't need permission from the government to do that. And Lilona, as actioners, as you sit here, clean up campaigns. We must do that. If in fact the government is not doing that, we must roll up our sleeve, we must force them to be able to employ you. Because when they see you working, they must make a plan. Dr. Moya, you must make a plan. If young people in the city are helping you fix the rubble, we must make a plan. That is absolutely always possible. They say resources are always the last problem. What you need is a dedicated nation. Colleagues, at this particular point in time, I want all of you to know that even me, as you see myself here, I lost my mom when I was 14, my dad at 20. It was hard, it was tough. We were also not toolers. But I can tell you for sure that if you know where it is you want to go, you can always get there. And it doesn't matter when that time comes, it surely does come. Actioners will remember that last year we launched this Spaza for Locals campaign. Dr. Moya is speaking about it. We are very serious, and we wanted Dr. Moya to demonstrate that it absolutely can be done. We were raised, let us not look down on that small business. You must always ask yourself, why is it that others are interested in it and you are not? It's a very valid question that we must begin to ask ourselves. Why are it's a vuvuzenzele. Our parents were doing it under tough times. I want us to welcome somebody who is the original Spaza for Locals king. The one who started a Spaza from a boot of his car, has built a successful business and is now helping us build a successful and formidable political movement in this country. Please help me welcome our president, Ntate Herman Mashaba. He has a doctorate in business too. We're busy with doctorates here. Please
Dumelang, Molweni, fellow South Africans, Sanibonani, Uyemore, Avusheni, and good morning. Let me tell you a story. I extend my greetings to all political, business and civil society leaders here gathered this morning, or this afternoon, as well as the group of young school leavers from the class of 2024 who have also joined us. We have invited you here today because the discussion around the constitutional objective of transformation in our country has actually stalled. The choice of Apartheid Museum to host this occasion is not accidental. We chose to gather here to remind everyone of where we come from as a country, of the work that must still be done to take South Africa as far away as possible from the horrors of its past and closer to the realization of a democratic vision of a more inclusive society with no one left behind because of the color of their skin, their ethnic or gender identity or religious choice. On one extreme is politically connected elite that link to BBBE as an enrichment program, despite the evidence all around us that BBBE is clearly a failed policy. On the other extreme are those that callously say that we should just get over the past. It has already been 31 years since the apartheid ended. They base this position on the bizarre belief that 30 years of a democratic government could balance out so many more years of systemic oppression and dispossession. Imagine this when 31 years of ANC government has deepened racial patterns of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. In between these extremes is the reasonable, rational center of our country, the majority, who can tell the difference between the noble objective of transformation and the policies of BBBE that have failed to transform our country. The South Africans know that our country will never become a nation for as long as the legacy of our past remains so clearly evident in the ownership patterns of our present. It is to the South Africans that I speak today when I call for a national dialogue on transformation to develop alternatives to the failed policies of the ANC BBBE. In this regard, ActionSA will be tabling a draft resolution in the National Assembly in terms of Rule 119 to initiate the establishment of an ad hoc committee tasked with a critical mandate to investigate, deliberate, and shape agent reforms at achieving genuine and transformative economic justice. Importantly, we must embark on this effort to bridge partisan divides and build genuine consensus, establishing a dedicated and constitutionally empowered platform that will not merely culminate in rhetoric, but in real legislative reform that advance economic justice in our country, South Africa. Joining us today is our Parliamentary Caucus Chairperson, Dr. Kgosi Letlape, who will speak further on this bold legislative initiative right after my speech, or my story. The frightening reality is that we can no longer speak about the previously marginalized because the marginalization has not stopped after the end of apartheid. It continues even as I stand before you today through substandard education, failed economic policy, corruption, and the complete failure to manage immigration. In truth, democratic post-apartheid administration had their job cut out for them. Considered widely as the government for the people by the people, they were meant to bring about new policies and the implementation thereof that would over time not only replace harsh racially discriminatory apartheid era laws, but also to ensure that the socio-economic playing fields are leveled to bring about the just, inclusive society that our Constitution calls for. Let me remind you, the preamble of our Constitution states, and I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by the law. Improve the quality of life for all citizens and free the potential of each person and build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. Unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been clear from the start that we could not reasonably expect to build a South Africa described in our Constitution without developing new legislation that would take head-on apartheid-era legislation that had been put in place to crush the potential of and to totally humiliate black people in South Africa. The list is very long, but the following selection of apartheid-era laws, from the oldest to the newest before the end of apartheid, will give you an idea, if you have either forgotten or never knew, of the extent to which apartheid-era governments were prepared to go to achieve their aims. In 1959, they passed the Mines and Works Act. In 1913, passed the Native Land Act. In 1923, passed the Natives Urban Areas Act. In 1936, Representation of Natives Act. In 1936, the Native Trust and Land Act. In 1945, Native Urban Areas Consolidation Act. In 1946, Asiatic Land Tenure and Indian Representatives Act. In 1949, Natives Laws Amendment Act. In 1950, Population Registration Act. In 1950, same year, passed Group Areas Act. In 1950 again, the passed Immorality Amendment Act. In 1950, passed Suppression of Communism Act. In 1951, Native Building Workers Act. In 1951 again, Bantu Authorities Act. In 1951 again, Separate Representation of Voters Act. In 1952, passed the past laws, which are still carried at my house. In 1953, Reservation of Separate Amenities Act. In 1953, Natives Labour Act. In 1953, Bantu Education Act, which I'm a product of. In 1954, Natives Resettlement Act, which forced my parents to leave their area. In 1959, when I was born, Extension of University Education Act. That's why I ended up going to University of the North, 350 kilometers away from Pretoria, where I was only 40 minutes away. In 1950, Promotion of Bantu Self-Governing Act. In 1960, Unlawful Organization Act. In 1961, Preservation of Colored Areas Act. In 1961, Colored Persons Communal Reservation Act, as I've already indicated. In 1961, Urban Bantu Councils Act. In 1963, Rural Colored Areas Act. In 1965, Indian Education Act. In 1970, Bantu Homeland Citizens Act. In 1971, Bantu Homelands Constitution Act. In 1973, Aliens Control Act. In 1985, Colored Persons Education Act. Now, I'm citing this not only to spite or not to spite or as many of you might like to claim for the pleasure of dwelling in the past. I do so to remind you of the pervasiveness of the apartheid legacy that was meant to inform the work that post-apartheid administration had to do or to undo the socio-economic ravages of many decades of apartheid as envisaged in our constitution. What we have seen instead are successive ANC administrations that were expected to constitute a government for the people by the people, becoming one after the other, governments for the politically connected by their comrades. You needed to be a cadre with struggle credentials or connected to one to seriously benefit from the corrective, transformative ANC policies. Those who did not meet this criteria either had peanuts thrown at them or were entirely left out in the cold. This is where the expression, "it is cold outside the ANC," come from, with no shame. Under the ANC, we saw the enactment of laws such as Affirmative Action or Unemployment Equity Act and the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment laws. While the introduction of these laws was noble and aimed at responding to the constitutional call for redress and the transformation of the South African society into a just, freed from the society, freed from the discrimination of the past, the implementation has proven to be poor, weakened by all manner of incompetence and selective application in favor of individuals and companies linked to the people in the political elite of the former liberation movement, the ANC and its tripartite alliance partners, COSATU and the South African Communist Party. As a result, countless opportunities to improve the lives of ordinary Black South Africans, the masses of apartheid-era marginalized individuals and communities, have either been squandered or missed. As I stand before you today, in May 2025, there is unfortunately very little to show for the gains of this transformation loss. What is more, the discussion around transformation has stalled in our country through a spectacular failure of imagination that has led people to believe that our choice is either be or nothing, like an alternative could not exist. This cannot be allowed to continue while 60% of young people remain without the prospect of employment or further studies. ActionSA is for transformation, but not of the ANC failed kind. ActionSA is...
Well done.
ActionSA is for grassroots empowerment of those discriminated against in the past, but we are against re-empowering over and over again the same connected political elite. Here today are school leavers who successfully matriculated last year. Their families have moved heaven and earth for their education, and these young people have worked hard, but yet no one amongst them yet has the opportunity of further studies or employment, and we heard from some of them earlier. There can be no transformation in South Africa until these young South Africans have a pathway to realize their potential. As ActionSA, we will put forward a basket of essential policy levers into this new national dialogue on transformation designed to produce real, measurable change. If implemented as we intend them to be, they will respond directly and effectively to the constitutional call for real redress that has long been ignored. These are: number one, inclusive economic empowerment; 2, social investment grants; 3, housing, land reform and special justice; 4, gender justice; 5, social cohesion. Mindful of the vast expanse and devastating reach of the apartheid era laws I cited earlier, we must be clear. There is no single intervention that will bring about transformation. We cannot afford a silo approach. Our response must be systematic. It must look not only at the economy, but at the entire society, including access to land, special planning, education, healthcare, safety, security, and many more. ActionSA is not opposed to black economic empowerment. On the contrary, we believe that economic justice is a historical imperative. But we are opposed to the narrow, corrupt, and politically manipulated fashion in which it has been implemented. An approach that has entrenched inequality rather than dismantle it. For decades, the ANC has chased the illusion of equality of outcome, handing wealth to the connected few while leaving the majority behind. What we need now is a model that creates equality of opportunity for all. A model that breaks down the real barriers that keep millions excluded from the promise of freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, let me expand briefly on the 5 levers we propose. Not as a vague ideals, but as a concrete, actionable proposals that will champion in our proposed national transformation dialogue. First, on inclusive economic empowerment. We are proposing a fundamental shift from elite enrichment to grassroots empowerment. At the center of this approach is the Inclusive Economic Empowerment Act, which will establish a bold new vehicle called the Opportunity Fund. This fund will replace the failed BBBE framework through which the ANC has tried and failed for 2 decades to engineer transformation by enriching politically connected entrepreneurs. Instead of reinforcing inequality under the guise of empowerment, we will focus on real investment in real people. The Opportunity Fund will invest in tertiary education, entrepreneurial stimulus, and public infrastructure in underdeveloped communities, as Dr. Moya has already indicated. It will fund schools so that my grandchildren in Haramotsi, when they go to school, they must be in a public school, same as this one in Sentin where I currently live. We must invest in clinics, broadband, transport, and business hubs that unlock real economic participation. And it will do so in a manner that builds new wealth, not redistributed upward to the elite. We will capitalize the fund through a 5% opportunity fund levy on companies' profits, replacing the 4 to 6% currently spent on BBBE compliance. SMMEs will be exempted and the levy will be time-bound, 30 years and no more, with clear milestones and regular progress assessments. This bold measure is projected to raise 55.7 billion rands in its first year, growing annually in line with the economy. And unlike BBBE, this money won't go to auditing consultants and empowerment funding schemes. It will go directly to building the foundations of opportunity. For this to happen, we appeal for economic patriotism that, I guarantee you, will not be linked to a toxic system of patronage. We invite big business to place public good at the center of their corporate action. While we will ensure that possible loopholes for tax avoidance are closed, we will also call for laws that will go after those who try tricks to avoid paying their part. Business auditors who help their corporate clients to dodge their tax responsibilities, together with such clients, will be liable for a minimum of 5-year jail term without the option of a fine. Second, social investment grants. We will preserve the dignity and security that social grants provide, but we will do so with a clear purpose to reduce dependency, not entrenching. Our approach is rooted in the belief that no South African should be condemned to celebrate a life on 370 rands a month. As ActionSA, we will introduce a universal basic income stimulus, a 3-year unconditional cash transfer to adult citizens and permanent residents. Linked to poverty thresholds, the UBIS will pay 790 rands per month in 1 year, in the first year, 1,100 in the second year, and 1,006 in the third year.
Where's it going to come from?
From your taxes
Ah, they pay too much taxes.
and growing economy. This program alone is projected to grow the economy by at least 2 percentage points and create an additional 1.6 million jobs.
And inflation? Inflation?
Can we please allow the Spanish to finish his remarks?
Okay, thank you.
Will you want to take over to come and speak?
No, sir, thank you. Sorry.
No, you are most welcome. We live in a free democratic society. Apartheid is no longer there, so...
I've got 1 or 2 more questions to ask you afterwards. Thank you.
We will also review and expand other grants while digitizing the system to ensure faster, fairer, more transparent access. But let me be clear, the success of such measures must not be judged by how many people remain dependent on grants, but by how many we empower to leave the grant system behind altogether. Third, housing, land reform, and special justice. Apartheid special planning remains largely intact. Millions still live far away from work, locked into poverty by the simple injustice of distance. ActionSA will release hijacked buildings and idle public land to expand affordable housing close to jobs. We will fast-track title deed transfers, unlock service sites, and reform exclusionary zoning laws. We'll make it possible for a working-class family to own property, build intergenerational wealth, and live with dignity. Land reform will be accelerated, but it will be done within the Constitution with a clear focus to expand opportunity, not fuel political theatre. Access to land must mean access to ownership and to support and financing that makes it productive. Fourth, gender justice. If you want transformation to be real, it must be gendered. Our economy remains fundamentally unequal for women, especially black women. ActionSA will remove VAT on menstrual and contraceptive products, expand affordable childcare, and force equal pay for equal work. We will empower girls to enter STEM fields, support working mothers, and enforce real consequences for gender-based violence and workplace discrimination. This is not about box ticking. It is about removing the structural barriers that prevent women from participating fully and equally in society. Equality of opportunity means ensuring that a young girl in a rural village has the same chance to thrive as anyone else in this country. Fifth, social cohesion. A nation cannot transform if it is divided against itself. We will invest in youth development, mental health services, and community safety so that people have the support they need to contribute meaningfully to their communities. We will promote ethical leadership, encourage a culture of mutual respect, and build national pride rooted in shared responsibility, not manufactured slogans. True cohesion is not built by ignoring our differences, by recognizing the humanity in one another and working together to ensure no one is left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all part of an ecosystem, a fragile South African ecosystem whose various parts must be supported and strengthened to make their fair contribution and to benefit from the whole. If one part remains neglected, it will be just a matter of time before what ails it reaches and affects other parts and the whole ecosystem malfunctions. It is that simple. Like economic empowerment, it's a historic imperative that we shall not shy away from, but it is also an imperative that must be addressed with care, not hatred or retribution. We must also be able to determine key program milestones in its implementation so that it doesn't have to go on forever, ending up having an overall negative impact on society by simply transferring pain from one part of an ecosystem to others. That should be our aim. Our aim must be to bring about sustainable healing so that all South Africans, irrespective of their background, get to experience and enjoy their place under the South African sun. Ladies and gentlemen, let us also face this. None of what we propose here can be achieved while our country's borders remain porous, often managed by corrupt border and home affairs officials who take bribes to let in foreigners who come into our country. They come into our country to compete with South Africans for the most basic of jobs, economic opportunities and social services like housing, education and healthcare. We cannot reasonably expect to heal our legacy past by spreading our limited resources so thin that we try to solve the problems of other countries, which are often led by uncaring leaders who take all the resources of their countries for themselves and push their own people to cross into South Africa to seek better lives. We must protect poor South Africans, who are often black, from unfair encroachment and competition by foreigners, especially those who come illegally through our borders and immigration services.
Mozambique.
ActionSA will propose positive job reservation tools for South Africans, ensuring that only foreigners who bring rare critical skills and investment that create employment for South Africans, first and foremost, are allowed to come and work or run businesses in our country. Political refugees must be properly vetted in accordance with South African law and our international obligations, and their cases must be treated on individual merit before they are allowed to remain and earn a living in South Africa if they meet the requirements. If we remain shy to engage in difficult conversations or allow failed ANC policies and approaches to continue, I can assure you that we shall keep having the same conversation decade after decade, with new groups of frustrated school leavers wondering why the situation remains unchanged. I'm sure you will agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that this cannot be allowed to continue. And that's a commitment that we as ActionSA make a promise to you, that transformation, it's an imperative, and we are going to execute it unapologetically and ensure that future generations are given a better future as envisaged by our Constitution when it was adopted in 1996. I thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Nasiphi Mashaba. Let me now welcome to the podium my chairperson and fellow member of parliament, chairperson of our caucus, Senate member of ActionSA, medical doctor, Dr. Kgosi Letlape, who will speak to the legislative framework that we're going to follow. They say prayer without deeds is dead. Prayer without works is dead. He's going to speak to the Rule 119. Those who are leaving, is there no door at the back? It's quite distracting when everybody leaves from the front. Let us please welcome Dr. Kgosi Letlape.
Dumelang. You know, we always talk about transformation. Transformation is difficult. We can't even transform lanterns. The podiums are still made for tall men. They are not transformed to accommodate everyone. So even simple things, transformation is not an easy thing to do. You know, people tell their stories. I'm from Mendofai. You know, and one of the things that I lament about in my senior years is that I'm still waiting to be a citizen. I'm still waiting to be recognized by the Constitution. The President referred to the Constitution. And when you go back to the preamble, and in most of the Constitution, it's silent about citizens. It talks about people. It talks about people who live in it. And that's part of our problem. Is that if you come from outside, once you are in here and you live here, you have rights in the Constitution. So those of us that were born here were marginalized because of our color. We are now marginalized by the Constitution. I'm from the health sector. A week ago, post the fires in Tembisa, we went for a site visit, and we went to Rahima Musa Hospital. And the hospital CEO of the neonatal unit, neonatal ICU, says they have 140% occupancy. And I asked her, can you break it down? 40% of their patients are foreigners. You take out the 40%, they have 80% occupancy. And on that, they can't run. So whatever reforms you want to do on the service side, whatever reforms you want to do on the education side, because I will come to the issue of the rule, but I want people to understand that we're going to look at this in a broad context. When you have no access to social services, transformation is not going to occur. Economic empowerment is not going to occur. When you cannot get rid of the architecture of patriarchy in our society, transformation is not going to occur. In all your sectors. So there are multiple things that need to be done by this party for this transformation to be achieved. I am a product of Bantu education that the president spoke about from 1953. Product of democratic education can't read for meaning? If they can't read for meaning, can they be employable? So when you create a situation like that, you are actually destroying society. So those of us that are locals, I have this expression that as a government and as parliament, we are international darlings and domestic terrorists. We terrorize our people. We will talk against atrocities like the destructions of hospitals in Gaza. But we will not talk about the fact that we destroy our own hospitals through nepotism, cadre deployment, and corruption. And the outcome is the same. People don't get healthcare. People die. So we quick outside, but we slow on the inside. And that needs to change. So whatever we want to do, without fixing education, that is quality education, and there are certain things that we can do to build a united nation. Education should be free for all citizens, irrespective of color, irrespective of their economic prowess. Because once you spend money on administration of NSFAS, where you assess people, you're wasting time, you are investing in what this museum is about, apartheid. You are setting people apart. And if we create a system where all our children get quality free education, that will be a building block for a better society. I just want to leave you with that before I give you the mundane processes of parliament. Now, ActionSA, in accordance with Rule 119 of the National Assembly, will table the following draft resolution in terms of Rule 2531A. The resolution mandates the establishment of an ad hoc parliamentary committee which will be entrusted with the following responsibilities. 1. Investigate South Africa's post-1994 legislative framework aimed at transforming the country's economy with a specific focus on evaluating the actual outcomes of these laws in relation to the stated objectives. We have this habit when something has failed, we have a commission about it. Nobody says, why did it fail? How do we fix it? And we love having commissions and having reports that gather dust. Let's take them all out, dust them off, and find out what went wrong. Conduct substantive public hearings to gather views from ordinary South Africans, relevant experts, business and industry, civil society organizations, and academics regarding the persistence of structural inequalities and potential interventions. And people need to understand the importance of engaging society. We went out on public hearings on tobacco ban, and we got to communities that said, we have no problems with cigarettes. We have problems with drugs. We have problems with nyaope. So you guys in parliament don't really know what the challenges of South Africans are. So it is important to engage and to listen to the people. Facilitate the receipt of proposals by way of substantive submissions from all political parties represented in the National Assembly. Those of you that are too young to remember the previous regime, there was a lone voice in Parliament of a representative from Gauteng called Helen Suzman. She was a minority, but she was a voice for good. So sometimes the good things don't come from the people with the big numbers, because big numbers make you complacent. You are encouraged not to think and just to vote. 4, consider all submissions and identify the legislative and policy reforms required to effect economic justice and achieve the vision of the Constitution, and propose such interventions to the National Assembly. During the days of majoritarianism, things never came to Parliament. The party that was a majority decided in corridors and railroaded things in Parliament. We've seen what has happened with the budget. That now South Africans are more engaged and more informed because there's no majority dominance. You've got to put the facts on the table and you've got to provide rationale for what you are putting up. We are now living up to the promises of the Constitution of a multi-party democracy. The work of this committee is premised on addressing the following prevailing realities. I will not go into those, they are in the speech. Some of them have been covered by the President and have been covered by our Chief Whip and spokesperson. The issues about the inequalities, etc., etc. Now, I just want to say that the value in pursuing this legislative mechanism lies in its ability to achieve the following. Foster national consensus. It aims to build broad-based agreement on the way forward without imposing a singular viewpoint to the exclusion of others, and ensures that different perspectives are subject to open and fair deliberation. To enable constituency-empowered reform in a context where no single party commands a majority, this mechanism provides an opportunity for meaningful constituency-driven engagement. It breaks the cycle of endless dialogues and instead advances concrete legislative reform grounded in accountability rather than rhetoric. Thirdly, we reinforce Parliament's central role. As the representative institution of the South African people, Parliament must lead this process. Legislation that addresses the national interest, particularly in advancing economic justice, must originate from inclusive and constructive parliamentary engagement. If you're going to have a fund, the relevant committees in Parliament must be involved in appointment of the custodians to the fund. It cannot be done inside one party. It has to be a parliamentary obligation. We're not going to see what we see in NHI, where the minister wants to be the one that appoints a nominations committee and creates a board that's going to manage the largest fund by passing Parliament. As long as ActionSA is represented in Parliament, Parliament will not in any way, shape, or form. Remember, an education system that is empowering to all, an empowerment of women in particular, is how we rebuild our nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's what we're going to do. I know everybody says, particularly I heard the gentleman saying, how? There are many hows, and they're there in the speech. One of the hows is being represented in Parliament. You know, people always say, you're a one-person party, what is that going to do?